Hi, I'm Claire and I'm a staff reporter for the DP. I'm here today with Feminista Jones, who is a social worker, black feminist, community activist, and Penn alumna. Activism at Penn is definitely a big, important part of our culture here. There are lots of groups like Soul, who've had a lot of rallies, and they've also gotten some like viral media attention. So I guess how would you compare the activism culture while you were at Penn and how it is today?
I think that Penn has always been a place that has nurtured activism, either by creating situations where people had to respond or by giving people space to kind of figure that out. I think that even like 20 years before I came, there was a huge culture of activism here on Penn, which kind of laid the groundwork for us. I love what I see here. I love that students as young, people as young as 17, 18, freshmen that are coming and they're like, this is what we want to happen. This is the change that we want to see, and we're going to take steps to do that. So I think that the activism is, it's not that it's the same, but I think it just kind of builds on the activism of the past, and it really kind of just folds into that culture. And I love what I'm seeing. And now, today's generation, they have social media. They have all these other ways to get it out there. Back then, we didn't have all of this, so nobody knew what we were doing unless it got written about in local newspapers. But now the world can kind of see what they're doing. So I think that's probably the biggest difference.
I noticed that you tweeted sometime in the fall about Penn not giving you, I guess, alumni recognition based on the pseudonym. Could you explain that situation?
There's a Facebook group for Penn alumni, and I wanted to share an article that I wrote for Time magazine about black women and domestic violence, and they didn't want to share it because it wasn't listed under my given name or my name that's connected with Penn. And I was really disappointed in that, because you have an artist like John Legend, who Penn is really proud to say graduated from Penn, but Legend is not his name. It's a pseudonym that he uses, and yet they can promote his work and support his work. And there are others who have done the same, and I just found it really troubling that, here's my first article for Time magazine, right, international magazine, addressing a very specific issue about black women and domestic violence, and they wouldn't even post it in a Facebook group because it wasn't under my given name. Like, it was really disappointing, and it didn't make sense to me.
So in December of 2014 at Penn, there were two different sort of connected incidents on campus regarding race and gender. The first was the fraternity Phi Delta Theta had a Christmas card picture posing with a black sex doll that they claimed represented Beyonce, and they were under a lot of fire for that. And the second incident was an activist group went to President Amy Gutmann's holiday party and participated in a die-in, and Amy Gutmann also joined them, and she received a lot of backlash from the Penn police. Do you have any comment, anything you think of those situations?
I think that the fraternity issue is nothing new here. When I was here, one of the things that I challenged people to think about when they talked about black students separating themselves was I asked them to look at the fraternity culture and to look at how they separate themselves. They have houses on Locust Walk, they're allowed to do all these other things where they don't have to include other people, so why is no one pushing against them and challenging them? And I've always felt that college camps, I'm glad there's more sexual assault and awareness kind of things coming up related to college campuses, but I think that this is nothing new, and I'm not at all surprised that they did something like that. It's sad, and it's unfortunate that it continues to happen, and I think it's very abusive to the black students here, particularly the black women here. But this is also America, and I think that there is this tendency to be abusive towards women of color. So I think that these young men are doing pretty much what's almost expected of them and what's condoned by our society. In terms of the die-in, I also know that there were students who felt that it wasn't as sincere as President Gutmann wanted to seem, but I think that it was important to have that visual of a Ivy League university president joining in on something like that, because in my day, when Judith Rodin was here, she had a Kwanzaa tree that had little figurines of black people hanging from branches. So we have, we've come a long way in terms of presidential, holiday parties. And for people to have backlash against that, I mean, the woman is allowed to take whatever stance she wants to take, and if there's repercussions, I'm sure she's aware of them and she'll deal with them. But I think that it definitely added a visual aid to the cause. And I think that the students, some students felt really supported. Other students wanted a little bit more. So I think there was a little bit two sides to those stories.